In this video, we're going to talk about the IRS form W-4. We're going to do it as filing single with one job. But before we do that, if this is your first time at our channel or you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button at the bottom. My name is Travis Sickle, certified financial planner, helping you reach your financial goals. So this is going to be the basic walkthrough. Now there's a lot of different variations or things that could impact how you fill out the W-4. If you find something that you want to learn a little bit more about, take a minute, put it in the comments down below, and I'll do that for future videos. But this is going to be for filing single, the updated version for 2019. We're going to use the online version to fill out the paper version. It's going to be the best way to do it. So if your employer gave you one of these to fill out, this is all you need to do to fill out this bottom section. We're going to go over the online version, which is going to give you the answers in order to put on the paper version. And this is by far the easiest way to do it, and the IRS says it themselves. So let's jump right in. I'm going to pull it up on the screen and we're going to do this complete walkthrough right now. So this is the tax withholdings estimator. Now I'm going to put the link in the description at the bottom. You can follow along with us and watch it as many times as you need until you get it right to make sure that you're paying the least in taxes and of course filling this out correctly. So when you get to the tax estimator, this is a brand new calculator of sorts to go through the IRS form W-4. And on this first screen, it's going to show you that you can select your filing status. So for this example, we're going to click off single and you'll see it populates questions as you answer them moving forward. So can someone claim you as a dependent on their tax return? So for this walkthrough, we're gonna say no because you're on your own, you have your own job, you're paying for your own bills. So the next thing that we have to take a look at is, do you have any dependents? So if that is the case, do you plan to claim dependents on your tax return? So if your children are under the age of 17, that is gonna be the child tax credit, which is $2,000, and dependents over that. So once your child is over the age or over the age of 16, so 17 and older, that's only going to be a $500 tax credit. Now, if you do have kids, go ahead and click off yes, but for this example, we're going to choose no. Now for the income, do you hold a job that regularly receives a paycheck that are subject to federal income tax withholdings? Now, if you're filling out the W-4, then the answer is going to be yes. So we're going to check off yes, and then it's going to ask you how many jobs. For this example, we're just going to choose one, but if you have multiple jobs, go ahead and check them off. Now, a note, if you also have previous jobs, so if you're switching jobs, that is actually going to be two jobs, one that you've had previously and one that you have right now, so you can enter in all the information. Because remember, this is just estimating our tax liability, so you're making sure that you're withholding the correct amount on each paycheck. So your tax liability isn't going to change how you fill this out. It just depends on how much you're going to withhold right now versus the end of the year. So the end of the year is when you either get a refund or you owe the IRS a little bit more. So that is the difference on how you fill out the W-4. So let's scroll down. Do you have a pension? We're going to go with no. If you are receiving a pension, this is if you're currently receiving pension income, then choose yes. But in this example, we're going to check off no. Now, other sources of income. Now, sometimes this gets a little tricky. We look at Social Security and think, well, I'm already withholding Social Security. Does that mean I should check that off? The answer is no, because that first word is the key right there, receiving. So are you receiving this income? It's trying to figure out whether or not you're going to have a bigger tax liability and what your income's going to be. So if you do have other sources of income, go ahead and check off these boxes. But for this example, again, we're not going to check off any of these, but we're going to keep it really simple. So demographics, on these check boxes, I will be 65 or older on January 1st of 2020. If that's true, check it off. And if you are legally blind, check that off. And we're going to click off next. Your job. Do you expect to hold this job all year? We're going to check off yes. How frequently do you get paid? Now, sometimes this can be a little bit tricky. We have weekly, we have every 2 weeks, twice a month, and once a month. How do you figure that out? Well, weekly is pretty straightforward. If you're getting paid every single week, that's weekly. Every 2 weeks, a little different than twice a month, because every 2 weeks is going to work out to 26 pay periods, where twice a month works out to 24 pay periods. And of course, the last one is going to be 12 pay periods because that's 12 months in a year. So let's go ahead and check off every 2 weeks. for this example. Now here's where it's going to get a little tricky if you already have this job. So you've already received a paycheck. Now, the reason it's asking you this is because it needs to know how much has already been withheld so far this year. Now, this is the part that confuses most people. And the reason that is because the estimator is trying to figure out if you withheld too little or too much so far this year. Now, if that's the case, it's going to help you make that adjustment. And that's the great thing about this online calculator. It's going to make the adjustment for you, either increasing or decreasing the amount of allowances that you're going to put on this W-4 so you can withhold the correct amount, or as accurate as possible is really what you want. So let's go ahead and we're just going to put in a date right here. Today is September 23rd, recording this video. So we're just going to go ahead and put, we'll put today's date. It doesn't matter. Today's date. Now, where you're going to get this information from your last pay stub. That's what you're going to get this information from. So if you don't have it, go to your employer, grab it, and then go ahead and enter this information in. And I think I had to put in a 0 in the front there. Very tricky. Now that next section is enter the total wages you expect to receive this year. So make sure that it's for this year, not your annualized income. Now, if you've had this job since January 1st, you can use that number. But if you just started throughout the course of the year, this new job, and let's say it's $100,000 and we're halfway through the year, well, you're not going to earn $100,000 in 2019. If it's halfway through the year, then you're only going to earn half of that, which would be $50,000. So you kind of have to do a little bit of math here to figure out how much you're going to make in 2019. Really important that you make sure this is correct. So again, if you started on January 1st, is whatever you're going to get paid. So if you're going to make $100,000, $50,000, you put that in there. But if you're not going to work the full 12 months, then you need to adjust it to make sure that you're only accounting for the money that you're going to get this year. And if it's already 2020, the same thing. Same thing applies. Enter the total wages. So let's just say that we're going to earn $50,000 for the year. Enter the amount of any bonuses we expect. Let's say we're not going to get any bonuses. Using your most recent pay stub, enter the total, enter the federal income tax withheld from your last paycheck. Now, I don't have a pay stub here, so I'm just going to throw in numbers in there, but this is where you're going to go back to your pay stub, look what's already been withheld so far this year, and that's where you're going to enter it in. And this is the federal income tax withheld. So let's just say that we've withheld $2,000 this year. And let's say that we've withheld $200 on our last paycheck. And I had those two backwards. So let's put 200 there and 2,000 there. Did you or will you contribute to a tax-deferred retirement plan such as a 401k? So if it's a 401k, remember there's two sides to a 401k. There's the Roth side and the traditional side. So the traditional side is what they're looking for here. So if you're putting this money into the traditional side, that's going in pre-tax. Same thing with a 403b or any other type of retirement plan, SEP, Simples. Those are all going to apply. So we're going to check off yes. And how much do you anticipate? Let's just say we're going to do $3,000. Did you or will you contribute to an HSA, FSA, or pre-tax child care credit or cafeteria plan? Any of these things are going in pre-tax. So again, they're going to lower your taxable income. That's why it's asking it. I'm going to check off no, assuming that you don't have one. But if you do, just put the amount that you're putting in there. Because if you click off yes, it's going to ask you how much for the year. Click on next. Any adjustments to income? We're just going to go to the next step here to keep it as simple as possible. Any deductions? We're going to take the itemized deductions, and it says it right there at the very top. I'm going to zoom in. Do you see that? $12,200. What that means is our $50,000 is going to be reduced by $12,200 as a standard deduction. So rather than sitting there itemizing everything, the IRS says, well, the first $12,200, we'll just give that to everybody as a deduction on their income. So if that's the case, if you have more than $12,200 in itemized expenses, which you probably don't have anymore because they have cut most of the expenses that you can actually write off as an individual, we're not talking about a business, we're talking about an individual, then that's what you need to do. Either choose itemized or standard. We're going to stick with the itemized, or excuse me, we're going to stick with the standard. So we're going to stick with the standard there. I didn't mean to click on the itemized, but we're going to click on the standard, which is the $12,200, just so we can move forward on it. Do we have any tax credits that we might qualify for? We can look at some of these tax credits. We're not going to, but we already know that we may or may not qualify for the saver's credit. Now, in this example, I know that I'm not going to qualify for it, but if you're close to some of these credits, just look through them and see if you qualify for any of them so you can reduce the amount that you need to withhold right now versus getting that refund at the end of the year. If you don't, and you do qualify for those credits, well, that's great, but you're just going to get that money back in a refund rather than earlier, a bigger paycheck right now. That's the big difference here. Bigger paycheck today or bigger refund later on down the road. So let's just say get results without tax credits. And so this is the results page. And you might be a little confused because you're looking at this and it doesn't have any of the answers that you need for the W-4. So what do you do? So first of all, it doesn't matter how many allowances or how much you've already withheld. The total tax liability will not change. So I just want to point that out really quickly and show you what that means. So your anticipated tax obligation is $3,985. And if we go back to the income and withholdings, remember I put in numbers here, the 200 and the 2,000. Let's say that we put in 3,000 in total withholdings. And then we go back to that last section, results page. You could see that that $3,985 doesn't change, but our estimated overpayment does change. So that is the difference. It's a matter of, are you withholding it too much or too little right now? But your total tax that you're going to end up paying at the end of the year won't change based on the W-4. Now that doesn't mean you can just keep all of the money and pay the tax at the end of the year. You still have to fill it out accurately, but it's not going to affect your total taxes that you're going to end up paying. And that might be confusing because I'm saying paying. And so if you fill it out differently than somebody else and you get to the end of the year, you might owe. That's not what I'm talking about. This number, this $3,985 doesn't change whether you pay it today or tomorrow. Now, if you don't pay anything today, you could end up with some penalties, which is not what you want. So fill it out as accurately as possible. So here's really what you want to take a look at. These two buttons at the bottom. And I've seen a lot of people get to this last page and just stop and say, what do I do now? Now, you have to scroll down. It should be a little bit more prominent, but you have to scroll down and click on these buttons. Now, what's nice is if you want to get close to zero, this is how you're going to fill it out. So on line 5, it tells you right there. On line 5, enter 3, and you're good to go. That's what you need to put. But if you want to get a refund, it's going to say enter 0. So why is it going to enter 0? Because it's going to withhold more money. So the less allowances that you take, the more that's withheld from each paycheck. So let's prove that. Let's show that. Let's go back really quickly and let's look at those income and tax withholdings. And let's say that we've withheld $500. Let's do 500. 500. So very, very little right now. Let's click on next and go to the results page. Scroll down. And now you can see to get close to 0, you have to enter 0. And to get your refund, you also have to enter 0. So it made that adjustment. So on line 5, enter 0. On line 6, enter 341. So 341 is additional withholdings because you haven't withheld enough. So it went all the way down to 0, but then it said, okay, we need to withhold even more money because we've already been paid some of these paychecks so far this year, but haven't withheld that much. So we need to kick this up a notch and withhold more money. So that will get you to 0, but this is what you're going to have to do. So as you're filling this out, so if you're going back to the paper version, you're looking at it and saying, wait a second, I have to put one for myself, and you're going down that whole path. And I think I have it right here. So here, if you're looking at this page, the allowances page, and you're saying, well, I'm going to enter one for myself, and well, I'm not married filing jointly, so I'll put a 0 there. And then you're looking at, well, if you're single, I'm going to file, or if you're single or married filing separately, or have only one job, you put a 1, so I'm going to put another 1. This is a different calculation. This would be good if you're doing it for January 1st. And that's why the IRS says, and I think it's right on the first page there, right on the first page, it says you can also use the calculator at irs.gov/W4APP to determine your tax withholdings more accurately. So they're the ones that are saying that the online version is more accurate because it's helping you make those adjustments. This is exactly how you want to fill it out. This is the simplest way, the best way. And as things change, come back to the W-4 calculator or the estimator and go ahead and fill it out again so you can make those adjustments to make sure that you're paying the least in taxes throughout the course of the year. And of course, paying the right amount. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and leave your comments down at the bottom.